Mr. Ncuka, it's great to have you with us. You've obviously laid everything bare in the book already, and you've spoken about those days. But I'd like to ask you, when you heard the claims against our president now, Cyril Ramaphosa, and as you sit there watching the fallout, did it make you think back to those days when you were told there was evidence against not number one, he was then number two, Jacob Zuma?
Yes, indeed. But in this instance, I thought that it was highly irregular for Fraser to go out into the public with allegations against the president. Allegations that had not been tested. You know, when we investigated the deputy president, we did everything possible to protect that investigation from leaking. We did a couple of things in this regard. The first one was that when we applied for a search warrant, in the affidavit that we submitted to the court, we did not disclose the deputy president's name. We called him Mr. X. And secondly, when we conducted the searches, we decided against the proposal to search the office of the deputy president, because we realized at the time that if you search the office of the deputy president, it's tantamount to a finding of guilty, because people are going to assume that once you search the office of the deputy president, it means you have a convincing case against the deputy president. And most importantly, this is an indictment not just against the deputy president, an indictment against the country. So in this instance, for Fraser to go out into the public and invite the public and release all those details without them having been tested, without any investigation, it's not just an indictment against the president, it's an indictment against the country, because I'll tell you, I would imagine sitting here that most of the ambassadors of this country are running around explaining in these capitals where they are serving what is going on in South Africa. The standing of our president has been affected, and some of the heads of state are going to be reluctant to do business with him and will want to wait to see which way the wind is blowing.
Yeah.
And so it's a very serious thing to have these allegations being leveled against the president and being trashed out into the public when there are still allegations.
So you're saying he's being prejudiced. In fact, it's nothing like when you stood up and said there's a prima facie case against Jacob Zuma. That was based on hard and fast evidence. But there is this court of public opinion, as they say. You had reputational damage. You faced many claims. And sometimes you have to fight back by telling the truth in that public space. Can you comment on that?
Yes. In my instance, we went out into the public after we had finalized the investigation, after we had given the deputy president the opportunity to respond to the allegations against him. In this instance, the allegations have been thrown out into the public and the president has been given no opportunity. And in fact, he doesn't even know what is the case that he has to meet, because those are still allegations. That's not evidence. It's just allegations, wild allegations. And he's being prejudiced. Not just him, the country itself is being prejudiced. Because the investigation against the president is not an investigation just about anybody else. This is the head of state, is the head of the country. He represents this country in interaction with the rest of the world. And his standing has been affected.
You, more than anyone, have had to face the question of political influence on state institutions after the spy tapes. A question many South Africans have is, are state institutions still being used to wage political battles? And will there be a sense that the people at the head of the legal authorities, the prosecuting authorities right now, if they have to look at this, will be able to do so without fear or favor? What do you think?
There is no reason why they shouldn't. And let me state it categorically, Francis, that during my time, the institution was never used to fight those battles. If it was, I would have easily have prosecuted Jacob Zuma. But I didn't. You see, the deputy president had said all sorts of things about me, casting aspersion on me, on my credibility and everything else. But I resisted that temptation to use the office to fight my battles. So it could have been easy for me to do that, but that office was never used to fight political battles. And I have no doubt that the present incumbent, because I had the privilege of working with her, and some of the people who are there, people like Anton du Plessis and de Kock, I worked with them. I know they are good people, and I have no doubt that they will do the right thing.
All right, well, thank you for commenting on the current, as you say, speculation or allegations. I guess that's as far as it goes, because we are all waiting for more information. So let me talk about just those previous times, the biography that's come out. For people who haven't followed it all, why do you still stand by your decision that Jacob Zuma then should not have been charged? Shabir Shaik was found guilty. Zuma is now being charged. Many South Africans believe that if Zuma had stood trial with Shabir Shaik, we'd be in a very different place right now as a country.
Indeed, many people. In fact, they go on, Francis, to blame me for everything that has happened to this country. And my response is very simply this. It would have been wrong for me to charge Zuma at the time when I was convinced that I did not have sufficient evidence to prosecute him. It would have been wrong. And therefore, the fact that Zuma became the president of the country had nothing to do with me. It was you people who elected him. And you knew what he had done because all the evidence was there in the Shaik matter. So you want to use the courts to fight your political battles, which is wrong. You elected him well knowing who he was. And so the country is where it is because you wanted it. You knew who Zuma is and what he was capable of. So, no, I wouldn't buy that. I didn't prosecute Zuma because I didn't have sufficient evidence at the time. And the decision that I had to take then was based on the evidence that was available to me at the time. Subsequently, I see, because I continue to be involved in that trial, because they try every time to involve me, I'm a deponent to many affidavits. Even in the present application now, I've submitted an affidavit because they try to drag me all the time. So I'm familiar with what is happening. They have collected more evidence subsequently after I had left. You can see the charges are different from what they would have been when I was there.
I think that is so important for us to know as South Africans, wondering whether this trial will get underway, never mind come to a conclusion. Given that there is stronger evidence than what you looked at, are you willing to venture as to an outcome?
No. Only fools do that. You never know what happens in a court of law. You can't predict. However, you can say, based on what we now know, I am certain that the trial will proceed at some stage. All these preliminary issues will be dealt with and will be disposed of. I don't believe that there's any merit in trying to get rid of Billy Downer as a prosecutor. I think that thing is going to be dismissed and the trial will proceed. What happens thereafter is anybody's guess.
Looking back, do you regret the conversations you had with Leonard McCarthy? Ironically, the same man believed to have given the spy tapes is the one who's laid charges against Cyril Ramaphosa now.
Of course, it's the same guy because he has always thought that he's above the law. He has never been
Fraser.
accountable. Yes.
Mr. Nluka, if you can hear me, the question was, do you regret those conversations that came out on the spy tapes?
No, not at all. It was the right thing to do. Let me explain. A decision is taken by Mshe not to proceed with the prosecution. At that time, Leonard is away, he's on leave. He communicates this decision to Billy Downer and them, and Billy Downer protests and writes a letter to Mshe to protest. When Leonard comes back from leave, Billy Downer asked him to intervene because they thought that it would be a good thing to proceed and charge Zuma before the conference in Polokwane. Leonard talks to me after the decision had been taken by Mshe and tells me that they are going to charge Zuma. And I said, that's a stupid idea. It will be wrong. You are going to cause bloodshed in this country. For you to run to Polokwane and arrest Zuma just before the conference, when in fact he was a candidate, you have been seen that you are trying to stop Zuma from being the president. It would have been stupid for them to do that. I have no regret about that because that was the right thing to do.
Finally, you've said that prosecutors now should be in a position to prosecute without fear. You faced an incredible political backlash. Any warning to them? You were accused of a lot of things, ultimately censured. The former president said that you had tried to humiliate him with that statement, and you resigned. What do you think is coming their way?
Oh, no. They must brace themselves. It's not going to be easy. As one of my colleagues, one of my friends, Joel Nesitenza, says, corruption fights back. And so they must expect that when they begin to arrest these people who are involved in corruption, that they're going to fight back. If they don't have any defense to the charges against them, they're going to target them personally. And they must be ready for that. Because you see, when people have no defense, what do? They look for what they think that will help them to get out of the problems they are in. And they start off by targeting the prosecutor, try to remove the prosecutor from the case. And so they must be ready for that. They're going to be attacked. And it happens all over the world. It's not just something that is peculiar to South Africa.
All right, we appreciate your time tonight. That was Bulelani Ngcuka, former Director of Public Prosecutions in South Africa.